Hey everybody, I'm Eric Grenier and I'm joined by Philippe J. Fournier of 338canada.com, and we're here for the Saskatchewan provincial by-elections where the polls have just closed. Let us know right off the bat if you can hear us and see us correctly, because that's always the first thing we want to make sure. Philippe, how are you doing tonight?
The sound is working this time. There's no screw up with the engineering, so everything is going fine. Good evening, Eric. It's good to see you again. This should be quite interesting. I know few people in Canada actually pay attention to Saskatchewan politics, but these by-elections could be close tonight. It should be fun.
Yeah, I actually am really interested to see how these are going to go. So I'll tell everybody what we're going to have here tonight. So obviously you can see us. We're here on the screen. On the left is the Saskatchewan Election Saskatchewan website. So we'll see the results coming in throughout the night. I have a link to it in the show notes, or not the show notes, but the YouTube description if you want to go yourself. I also have a link to Philippe's projections for Saskatchewan, so you can see how they're doing over there. So yeah, we're just going to watch these three by-elections. We got two in Regina. So Regina, Coronation Park, and Regina Walsh Acres. These are seats that the Saskatchewan New Democrats are looking to pick up. And then we have a seat in Lumsden-Morse, which is a rural riding in Saskatchewan where the Sask party is super strong. But curious to see how these smaller parties on the right are going to do. The Saskatchewan United Party, the Buffalo Party, and in Regina, there's the Progressive Conservatives that are running, looking to see how much of a splinter there is going to be for that Sask party vote over on the right. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. Both Philippe and I will keep an eye on it. And yeah, we'll just see how this goes. I don't know how long it's going to take. I think that Election Saskatchewan is using a faster counting system for the ridings in Regina, so that could be pretty quick. But there is going to be some hand counting in Lumsden-Morse, so we might have to wait a little bit longer for some of those. But I don't know. What are you going to be looking for tonight?
Well, just to start off, I have to say that those writing projections that are on 338canada.com will be wrong because, especially for Lumsden-Morse, because we have absolutely no data that came out publicly about the Saskatchewan United Party. And from what I've heard, they could make a play in those rural ridings such as Lumsden-Morse. So they probably not gonna win the SUP as we will call it tonight.
SUP, yeah.
The SUP, the SUP. So the SUP is not gonna win, but it could pick up 10, 12, 15% of the vote. We don't know. And since I had absolutely no data on it, they're not on our website anymore. So tonight will be the first piece of data that I will use to project how the SUP will do. But that projection will be wrong because there's no SUP. So I'll say SUP. SUP may be a little too.
Yeah, I
too
think
close
so.
to
Yeah. SUP or Sask United or something like that.
SAS
Yeah.
United. That's good. Yeah. Okay.
If people are wondering what this party is, it's led by Nadine Wilson, who is a former Sask Party MLA, and she, from what I understand, was booted out of the Sask Party caucus and started her own party. So it's a bit of a further right alternative to the Saskatchewan Party, which is the major conservative party in Saskatchewan. So that'll be interesting to see how they're going to do in Lumsden-Morse, where they do have a candidate. In that riding as well, there's also the Buffalo Party. So the Buffalo Party is more or less a sovereignist party for Saskatchewan. And they did pretty well in some of these ridings, these rural ridings back in 2020. They took about 6% of the vote in Lumsden-Morse. So curious to see how much of this vote is going to be splintering off. The Sask Party took, and I have my notes here, 73% of the vote in Lumsden-Morse last time. So I was not really expecting that they're going to lose it, but it's really just a question of if their support drops here, how much does it drop? How much goes to these right-wing parties? Because in other ridings, in the suburbs of Saskatoon, the suburbs of Regina, if they're losing a couple hundred votes to these parties on the right, the NDP might be able to move ahead. So I think that's the real question that this rural riding is going to answer for us.
Absolutely. So this is going to be a template for because there's a general election coming next year. I
Yep.
believe it's late October of next year. So I mean, we're not predicting what's going to happen then, but some by-elections 1 year from a general election, sometimes they can give you the mood of the electorate. They can change the momentum. And I know that there's been a few ones like that in Quebec where I live. That changed the mood in 2017. The CAQ won a big by-election in Quebec City, and from then on, they started leading in the polls. Now, I'm not saying the NDP is going to do that, but if the NDP wants to come back to power at some point, they have to win those Regina ridings. I mean, Lumsden-Morse is not going to be NDP tonight, but they have to. I mean, they used to win them handily, right, in the 90s and the early 2000s. I believe they lost both of those ridings, the two Reginas, in the 2011 election.
Yep.
And they haven't won them back since. So if they want to get back into a competitive race with the Sask Party, they have to win those ridings.
Yeah, there's no chance that even a larger NDP opposition doesn't at least have one of these Regina seats. Exactly. Regina Walsh Acres is one of it's a bit of an interesting one because in the last election, there was a candidate, Sandra Morin, or Moret, I'm not sure how she pronounced her name, but she was a former NDP MLA, a former NDP cabinet minister. She was the candidate for the New Democrats in Regina Walsh Acres. And the leader, Ryan Miley, at the time, disqualified her. Something in their background, they didn't make it public, but they disqualified her. But she decided to run as an independent anyway. And she took 12% of the vote. And the margin between the Sask Party and the NDP in Regina Walsh Acres was 9 points.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So you wonder how much of her vote was an NDP vote, how much was a protest vote. But it does suggest that riding could have been a lot closer last time than it ended up being. So that'll be one of the things to watch. And then you have in Regina Coronation Park, this was a riding that was decided by 283 votes. And the weird little thing there is that Mark Doherty, who's the outgoing MLA, he went out on a podcast, Scoop Podcast, which is a Saskatchewan political podcast. He said that he couldn't explain to constituents what he had done for what the Sask Party government had delivered. So he was kind of slagging his own party. And that's a weird thing. You don't often have that, especially with the Sask Party. They're pretty, they don't have a lot of that drama. So it is going to be interesting to see if there's going to be any impact from that the Sask Party outgoing MLA has more or less slagged his own government and given voters there a reason not to vote for the Sask Party again.
Margin was so small. I mean, fewer than 300 votes, as you said. You would think the NDP has to take this. If they don't, it doesn't bode well for the short term for the NDP. This one I think should be a rather easy NDP pickup.
Yeah, the polls that we have seen have shown the NDP doing well in Regina, ahead of the Sask Party, and the Sask Party actually won Regina by about a point in 2020. So any poll that is putting the NDP ahead in Regina suggests that they should be able to win a riding that they only fell behind in by less than 5 points, right? So that's the expectation, and I think that is the expectation that the NDP is going to do well in both of the Regina ridings. Whether they can actually win them is going to be the real test tonight. So those will be the things we're going to watch for. I saw that the Election in Saskatchewan was saying that because of they're expecting that they'll be able to have some results relatively early, so we'll see how that goes. There's also another little wrinkle to keep in mind is that there is a mail ballot in Saskatchewan, and they're only going to start counting the mail ballots on the 12th, and they finish counting on the 22nd. There's not a huge number of them. You can actually see on the website here, they issued 168 in Lumsden-Morse, they issued 204 in Regina Coronation Park, and 258 in Regina Walsh Acres. So they didn't get them all back yet. So there are, if the margins in, especially the Regina ridings, are only 100 votes, then we might not have a result until a few days later. But that mail ballot's probably going to go very strongly NDP. I looked at the Saskatoon-Mawassin.
Really, huh?
I looked at the Saskatoon-Mawassin by-election that took place, I think it was last year.
Yeah.
Of the mail ballots, so of the regular ballots, the NDP took like 57%. Of the mail ballots, they took 84. So I think it's a bit kind of, in the United States with the Democrats more likely to vote by mail, Republicans more likely to vote in person. So I think there might be a liberal progressive versus conservative split here in Canada as well when it comes to that.
It's so strange. I would have thought that older people would like to go to vote by mail, and older people, generally in broad terms, tend to lean conservatives, but or perhaps they just like to go out. So I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know the reason, but that's quite interesting. Okay.
So because it's late here on the in the Eastern Time Zone, we both have a drink here. So what are you drinking there, Philippe?
I am drinking my classic election night, which is vodka, soda, and a little bit of cranberry. What about you?
I have a cider. I enjoy Irish cider, Magners. It's my favorite.
Really,
that's my
that's
one.
really good.
Yeah, I like
good.
that. So we got a question from Philippe Charbonneau who's asking what the electoral histories of the ridings are. So Regina Walsh Acres and Regina Coronation Park, it has been with the Sask Party since 2011. So they've won it in each of those elections going back there by decent margins, not huge margins, especially Coronation Park. That's been decided by just a couple points. Before that, they were NDP. The NDP would win in Regina. They would usually sweep pretty much the entire city during the Roy Romano years and Lauren Calvert at the end. And then Lumsden-Morse, it's voted Sask Party for the last two elections. Before that, the boundaries were completely different, so you can't really find like a similar one. But the Sask Party has held that area since 1999. And before that, it was the PCs or the Liberals who would win it, not the NDP. So that's kind of the history here. So that if the NDP does pick up even one of the Regina ridings, that's something they haven't done in over a decade. The last time they won these was in 2007.
It's hard. I mean, we're really talking about the dynasty here, right? To 2011, so that's 12 years. Maybe not that long, but the Sask Party is so dominant everywhere outside those two cities, and the fact that the NDP is struggling to win those seats. I was just scrolling through the history of Walsh Acres, and yes, Madame Morin, I will call her, Madame Morin, used to win it by big margins. In 2003, she won it with 63% of the vote, and then 2007. 62% of the vote, and when she lost in 2011, she still had close to 40% of the vote. So the NDP has to go back to their roots. They have those two northern ridings, as we know, and they do well in the cities, but they only picked up 13 seats in the last general election, and you need 32 to win. So it was not even close. And since those rural ridings. The Saskatchewan Party wins by so much. The margins are so high. They have to sweep the cities.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting Coronation Park to go NDP. I'm not sure about Walsh Acres. We'll see tonight. But I like having by-elections that are close to a general election. There's potentially a meaning there. Sometimes it's meaningless, but sometimes it's not. So.
Well, what's actually kind of fun about these three. Is that if you average them out, you more or less get the vote share from the last election. So
representative sample.
In a way, because you got some urban ridings, and they have a bit of a mix of suburban, kind of urban, and then a rural riding. But yeah, what you said, like the problem for the New Democrats is that, if I'm not mistaken, there are 32 rural seats. I think it's 32. And the NDP can usually win the two in the north, so Cumberland and Athabasca, though they lost the Athabasca one in the last by-election. Yeah. But they have a lot of trouble winning any of the other ones. So it means that the Sask Party, from the get-go, has pretty much 30 ridings. Yeah. And they don't need to win a lot in Regina or Saskatoon. They only need a couple, and they can do it. So for the NDP, it is, as you said, a sweep in Saskatoon, a sweep in Regina. They got to win in Prince Albert, Moose Jaw, and the two northern ones, and then that's kind of it.
And they need those splits on the right, because if the Sask Party starts to have erosion on its right flank, this is how the NDP can get back in. So as you said, I think one of the most interesting thing to watch tonight, the SUP, the Buffalo Party, the PCs. I mean, I don't expect them to do much, but there's still three party on the right of the Saskatchewan Party that could take 3, 4, 5% each, maybe. Although the SUP, I think it could be much higher. But also those, I mean, what is their turnout going to be, right? You need, in a general election in Regina, 2,500 votes, maybe enough to win. So if the turnout is 40%, that means 1,500 votes and you win. So it can really turn on a dime here.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. And also just how some of these parties do, not just in terms of the impact it has on the Sask Party, but the last polling we've seen from Insightrix, which is the only Saskatchewan polling firm that you get numbers from. Once in a while, the Angus Reid Institute puts out some, but had the PCs at 10%. And no one in Saskatchewan thinks that the PCs are getting 10% of the vote, right? They took, I think, 2 or 3% last time. They don't run full slate of candidates. They're not exactly a major party, so you do think that there's a lot of brand confusion between the federal Conservatives and the PCs. So we'll get a bit of a test case here, because in Regina itself, I believe that the PCs are at 13% in the Incitrix poll. Small sample, but it was 13% in Regina.
I think we have some results.
Do we?
I see some results. Yeah, I see Lumsden-Morse, 64% for the Saskatchewan Party.
All right. Do I need to physically
refresh? I think you have to refresh. Yeah.
No, auto refresh every minute. Okay. All right. Okay, we got some numbers now. All right. So let's take a look at this. So we'll start with Lumsden-Morse. Hey, you got the Sask United Party in second place already. So you got Blaine McLeod, who's a farmer, a dairy farmer from the area. He's got 65% of the vote. We only got one poll reporting, so not very many. But you got John Hromick from the Sask United Party at 16.5%. So he's ahead of Caitlin Stadnick of the NDP. So we're already getting an indication there. In Regina Coronation Park, got a few more votes counted there. So Nor Berkey of the NDP, he was a candidate last time. He's got 54%, so he's off to a good start. While Riaz Ahmad of the Sask Party is at 38%. And then we have in Regina Walsh Acres, the Jared Clark of the NDP is a school teacher. He's at 55%. And Nevin Marquardt of the Sask Party is at 39%. As I'm reading it, some more results are coming in. Nevin Marquardt, you know who he is?
Tell me.
He's a hockey player. He used to play for the Boston Bruins.
Him. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
He played in the 80s, in the early 90s. He played a bit for Calgary, but he played, I think it was 300 plus games for the Boston Bruins.
Didn't he play for the Pats?
Yes, the Regina Pats.
That's how I know him. Okay.
So he's a bit more well known. So there you go. All right, so we're starting to get some results here, and they're starting to come in a little bit more quickly.
Interesting.
Oh, and take a look at Lumsden-Morse. It got the Sask United Party at 26%. Again, only 2 of the 23 polls are reporting, so we don't got a huge amount of votes in. But that if the Sask Party Sask United Party ends up plus 20%, the Sask Party is going to be really worried about that.
Oh, absolutely. Because again, let's not overreact to by-elections, but we're a year away from a general election. And if this small newish party takes, well, of course it's early, but 25% of the vote for that party, you would project that they could take a big bite of the Sask Party support in rural Saskatchewan, and that could be bad news for them. But interesting, okay.
Yeah. So that's definitely something to look at there. The NDP is not doing as well in Lumsden-Morse as last time. It kind of depends, I guess, where the results are coming from, but it's not exactly a place where there's a big pocket of NDP support or Sask Party support, so it shouldn't matter too much. And the same kind of goes for the 2 Regina ridings. There was some differences based on the neighborhoods, but we're only looking at 7 polls in total, so I don't think it's going to make a big difference. But so in Regina Walsh Acres, we got 2 polls reporting of the 6. These are big polls. They only got 6.
Big polls, huh? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So we were talking about the PCs and how much support they're actually getting. They're only getting 4% in Regina Walsh Acres, and they're getting 4% in Regina Coronation Park. So, I mean, that is a pretty clear indication that a lot of what we're seeing in the polls with the PCs is a bit of brand confusion, not support for the PCs.
If I may make a small parenthesis here, Eric, Nevin Marquardt, 65 games with the Regina Pats, 43 goals, 78 assists. That's a pretty good season, right? That's
a
2
different
points
time.
per game. And then he went to the NHL, as you said, the Boston Bruins, and is in Calgary Flames for 1 season. In 309 games, he had 41 goals and 68 assists, and 794 penalty minutes. So I'm pretty sure I saw him play against my Canadians when I was young, and he pissed me off. But
well, I mean, it was the Bruins, right?
Absolutely.
So he might have been a bit rougher. But that's not a bad record at all if he's getting about a third of a point a game. Okay, now we just got up to 4. We're going to be almost done in Regina Walsh Acres real quick. We got 4 of 6. So Jared Clark is at 53%. He's got a lead of about 400 votes over Nevin Marquardt of the Sask Party. In Regina Walsh Acres, PC's at 4%. The Greens only at 1%. In Regina Coronation Park, we still only got that 1 poll. And in Lumsden-Morse, we have 3 now reporting. And we got 3 reporting, and the Sask Party is under 50% in Lumsden-Morse. That would be remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. The NDP is holding its own with 29%.
Doing quite well, actually, up
Which
about 10
is
points.
what I think what we expect to have the NDP in that region between 25 and 30, right? But then the Sask party should take everything else. This vote split is going to be worrying for Scott Moe next year. I
Absolutely.
see that the smaller parties don't seem to be a factor in Regina so far. There's very
No.
small vote share thus far. So.
Yeah, and we can look at one of the ones in Regina Coronation Park, maybe worth keeping an eye on. Not, well, just keep an eye on it. I guess the Saskatchewan Progress Party, which is the new name for the Liberals. So they're at 2% of the vote. I understand that they felt that the federal brand was a problem for them, but the federal Liberal Party, as unpopular as it is, does so much better than the Saskatchewan Liberals at the provincial level. So in the last time that they ran a nearly full slate, I think they still managed 3 or 4%, something like that. The federal Liberals at least got 10% in the last campaign in Saskatchewan. So I don't quite get that line, but
The Progress Party.
yeah.
Okay, sure. I mean, why not?
Well, we got the Progress Party, we got the Progressive Conservatives, we got the Saskatchewan United, the Saskatchewan Party. There's a lot of similar names there. And we got a question.
The Liberals became the United. So yeah, don't confuse them. Those.
Yeah. So we did get a question, Jay, if we think distancing from the federal NDP had any effect. The Sask NDP really does separate itself from the federal NDP. Singh was uninvited, I believe, to make a speech at their convention, or at the very least, they asked him just to do a video address or something like that. And they actually had a report come out saying that they looked at whether they should change their brand entirely, adopt a different name. They decided not to, which is, I mean, the NDP governed Saskatchewan for a long time, so it does have some brand strength, but yeah. So I do think that the fact that they have separated themselves as much as they can from the federal NDP probably helps them in the same way that the Alberta NDP.
I was gonna say, not unlike Rachel Notley, I don't think Jagmeet Singh was. I mean, Rachel Notley did well. 39 seats, 44% of a popular vote, but she did not need or want or Jagmeet Singh's help, I believe. So
yeah. All right. We did get a comment that your mic is lower than mine, so I'm going to try to reduce my voice, and you can scream.
I have to speak louder? I can do that.
We are being told that, yes.
All right,
okay, so we are at 5 of 6 in Regina Walsh Acres, and the lead for Jared Clark is now 600 votes. I mean, that seems pretty good.
This is much better, right? Here?
I don't know.
Okay, I fixed my levels.
Okay,
so.
all right. Sorry about that, everybody. It's hard to know. I can only hear my own head how loud I am. So we got. I think we can probably say that the NDP is going to win Regina Walsh Acres. What do you think? 600 vote lead. There's only one poll left to go.
Plus the vote by mail. Did you say the vote by mail was just a couple of hundreds?
The vote by mail was 250. Oh, we're done. So there you go.
Walsh Acres.
Jared Clark going to win. Will be the next MLA for Regina Walsh Acres. The lead there is, what is that? That is about 612 votes, and there's only 258 mail ballots. So Jared Clark will win and be the next MLA for Regina Walsh Acres.
Wow.
Oh, now you sound terrific.
Yeah, I just saw that I was using the wrong mic. So my mic was right in front of me, but I was not using it.
See, that made sense. You sounded kind of echoey, but you changed rooms since last time, so I didn't want to say anything. I should have just said something. Yeah, now you sound terrific.
I'll blame the cat. So there you go. And thank you for the comments, people.
Yes.
This is you guys are helping a lot. Thank you.
Anyway,
so first pick up by the NDP, good for them.
That's a big swing too, because they got 40. Which one is that? Walsh Acres. So they got 38 last time.
Yeah,
they're up 16 points, but the Sask Party's down 6-7 points. So yeah, that's not good. If you had that kind of swing replicated across Regina, a lot of seats are going to flip between the two parties.
The smaller parties, I mean, I'm guessing that the Progressives and the Buffalo and the SUP, I mean, in a general election, they will run an almost full slate, all right? And so that won't help the Sask Party. I'm looking right now at Lumsden-Morse. 50% for the Sask Party, 25 New Democrat, and 23 for the SUP. 22% is a good result for this new party. Very interesting. So if you take a fifth or a quarter of the rural vote from the Sask Party, it won't swing that many seats. But you would think that Scott Moe will have to address this. You will not be able to just ignore those people.
No. Donovan Ekstrom is asking, or he's just saying, Rhino majority. If the Rhinoceros Party is going to storm out of, maybe Saskatchewan needs some sort of change. And
there's no Rhino here.
No, there isn't no Rhino here.
Okay.
Or is there? Or is there?
Well, there you go. 50 independents, maybe. Next time,
yeah.
So.
Okay, so there we go. We got one complete result. Aside from the mail ballots, as I mentioned, there's 258 mail ballots, but that's not enough to change anything. And if we assume that it follows the same pattern as in the 2020 provincial campaign, which the NDP did really well in the mail ballots or in the recent by-elections, Jared Clark's advantage over the Sask Party is probably going to increase. So big win for the NDP and Regina Walsh Acres. They're going to be really happy about that because the party hasn't had a lot of good news for 20 years.
2,400 votes in a by-election. The winner in the general election at 3,100. This is a pretty good result. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the turnout is about 38%, which is respectable.
It's higher than what we saw in Ontario. That's for sure.
No. Ontario's bad.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. Here, we got a question here from William Wilson. Realistically, can the Sask Party be beaten in a general? Is the political geography not tilted against more progressive areas? I mean, it is tough, right? Like, as we were saying before, the Sask Party can win, if they win 28 seats, if let's say they lose Prince Albert or one of the Moose Jaw ridings, they get 28 just in the rural areas. They only need to win, 3-4 in Regina and Saskatoon to form a government? So the NDP really needs to thread the needle. But that's the issue for them, is that they haven't been able to reclaim the rural areas. It's not the CCF anymore.
They used to win those.
Yeah.
Tommy Douglas and Ray Romano didn't just win the cities, right? So I know it's in a different era, but still, I mean, it's the same brand. It's,
well, the old CCF, the old NDP in Saskatchewan, like it was when the province was a lot more agricultural based. There was still the memory of the Depression and how everybody had to kind of get together and work together in order to survive, and all these kinds of things that would help a kind of agrarian cooperative kind of party. But Saskatchewan now, with the fact that they have so many much more like natural resources, it's starting to look and feel a lot more like Alberta. Maybe Alberta, a decade ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, rather than Manitoba. Like the polls often put Saskatchewan and Manitoba together, but the voting patterns between Saskatchewan and Alberta are far more similar.
Absolutely. Let's go back to Lumsden here. You said how much of the vote the Sask Party had last time around? I think it was 70%?
73.
73% of the vote.
And that was down from 75 in 2016.
And now they're struggling to get 50. And
you
see, it's almost linear, right? You see those. Right now the Sask Party has 50 and the SUP has 23. There you go, 73. I know it's not that linear, but you can see there's a chunk here. Yeah. And again, that's how the NDP wins an election. To answer the question of William here, the NDP to win an election, they have to sweep the cities and hope that there's a split that they can get a few. It's very similar to Alberta in 2015.
Yeah. And if the Sask United Party was able to get 20 to 25% of the vote in a lot of the ridings outside of Regina and Saskatoon, there are a few of them. There's a very rare, like the Sask Party just wins so many of these ridings with 60, 70% of the vote. Yeah. But, you could have, there's a couple of them where, where there is a smaller city in it, like Battlefords or something like that, or maybe Yorkton or Lloydminster, or some of those towns. Maybe it drags the NDP or the Sask Party down enough that the NDP, if they have a really good campaign, they might be able to pick up one or two. But it's more, I think, that this really makes it easier to win Prince Albert, Moose Jaw, maybe some of the outlying seats around Regina, Saskatoon. But yeah, as you said, we don't want to get ahead of themselves because they're still at 50%, the Sask Party in Lumsden-Morse. I think we can. I'm not. Well, yeah, I think we can probably say the Sask Party is going to win this riding.
Well, let's go ahead of ourselves. Can you imagine the Saskatchewan United Party in a general election 13, 14 months from now? Let's say they do get double digits and high double digits, like 16, 17, 18%. They could very well get a fair share of the vote and win no seat because they're just competitive where the Sask Party is dominant. But that still changes the dynamic because the Sask Party will try to emulate what the SUP is doing. So it will move the needle at some point.
The Sask Party, if they worry too much about it, will move to the right. And that'll open up an opportunity for the NDP. There is a question from Radix whether there's any rural ridings where the SUV could actually engage with them. It's hard to imagine. Maybe Nadine Wilson, if she was able to get into the debate, maybe she could win her own riding. But it's going to be tough. We do have complete results in Regina Coronation Park. So there we have Noor Burki of the NDP, 56.6% of the vote. So that's a jump of, which one was this? Coronation Park. So that's a jump of 13, 14 points from his performance last time. He ran last time. He was a driving instructor, but now he's going to be an MLA. And you have Riaz Ahmad, the Sask Party, with 31%. So that's down, that's down 18 points. That's really low. That brings them back down to where they were back in 2007, the last time they lost this seat. An interesting little tidbit here, both Burki and Ahmad both immigrated from Pakistan. They're both first-generation Saskatchewanians. So that's a little,
Is there a Pakistani delegation in Coronation Park?
It is an area that has a lot more of more immigrants than other parts of Regina. So
interesting.
So on the podcast I had Adam Hunter at the CBC on last week, he mentioned how there was some houses in the riding where there was both a Burki and an Ahmad sign on the front lawn because families knew both of them, so they were split. But so if we just look at Regina, you have 54% for the NDP in Walsh Acres, 57% in Coronation Park. So altogether, you're looking at a pretty big swing there, with the Sask Party dropping to 31 or 40%. So at the very least, this confirms those polls that are showing the NDP doing well in Regina.
Absolutely. 17 points loss for the Sask Party. This is significant. I'm looking at the smaller parties here. The PC is 6%. In the general, they had 4%, so basically the same. Green Party, there's no Green Party. Yeah, you got
3%. The Progress Party managed to get 2%. So the splits are not working against the NDP. The NDP is not losing enough votes that those matter. There are, again, 204 mail ballots that are out there. Not all of them will have been returned. But again, we expect the NDP to win those pretty handily. So if anything, the NDP could even jump up to maybe 60% in this riding once it's all finished. These are strong results. I wish I had just a simple swing model in front of me so that I could see what would happen with the rest of Regina with these kinds of results.
I'm probably going to run that tomorrow.
There you go.
Because I will adjust my model probably overnight or tomorrow morning. And of course, 2 Regina seats gives you a pretty good idea of where it's going, even though it's a by-election. So go back to Lumsden here.
Yeah, this one's counting a little bit more normally, I would say. In terms of what we expect. We only got 6 of 23 reporting. And
the Sask Party is going to keep that. It looks like, right?
Yeah.
But still, losing 23% to an upstart party.
Well, I mean, you look at, because the last poll we saw from Insightrix had 45% support for the Sask Party. A lot of that was with the PCs, which didn't make much sense. But the Sask United Party was at only 3%. So, it does seem like there is a non-Sask Party vote that is just going to go somewhere else, right? So it is interesting to see this because you have the Sask Party dropping pretty significantly in rural Saskatchewan. This is a very typical rural riding. Just to let people know where it is, it's just to the west of Regina. It actually runs from the city boundaries of Regina all the way to Swift Current, so pretty much across half the province. But it doesn't include any big cities. Moose Jaw is a little enclave within the riding, so it's just very rural. I tried to find out what was the biggest community there, and I think it's Lumsden with 2,000 people or something like that. So to see that the Sask Party is dropping that much in rural areas and then dropping an average of maybe 10 points or so in Regina, The thing is, though, with those kinds of results, I'd still expect the Sask Party to win 40-ish seats.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thing is, I don't think neither of us is thinking that there's an NDP takeover right now. There's no threat, but still, for a dynasty that won the popular vote by more than 20 points last time around, I think it was.
It was they more or less doubled. I think it was like 30 points.
30 points, huh?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So, But the NDP getting 25% or close to 20% in Lumsden, we had a comment here. It's the highest, highest since 2003. And I'm looking at the past results here. Indeed, 18% for 4 years ago, 19%. So yeah, it's been a while. I know by-election, but the NDP is having a good night so far.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions here. I had Jared Walsh has been mentioning the Preston by-election in Nova Scotia. We weren't there. We weren't doing this on Tuesday. It was just one riding, too small. But in a way, I kind of wish we did because the results were pretty striking there. But we also got another question about the urban-rural divide and why we don't see it as much at the federal level in Saskatchewan. But you do. It's just not. It's just those ridings are too big. I think it's just the Conservatives still win Regina and they still win Saskatoon, so they're not able. The NDP is not able to concentrate their vote enough because their vote is all split between the centers of the town, of the cities, and then the outlying suburbs. So the NDP's vote's always divided between those ridings, so they're not able to really win them. But like the thing is that the Sask Party did win both Regina and Saskatoon in 2020, right? So. That's right. In the same way that the Conservatives still win in Calgary. You know, the UCP lost Calgary, but by like, what, a point or something? It wasn't very much.
Yeah, it was tied. Yeah. And if you take this, is Calgary CMA, the UCP actually won. So
yeah.
You know, that conservative base in Western Canada remains strong and faithful. And for any progressive party, it's really hard to get through. So you can't be, a downtown progressive and win in those communities, or a latte progressive, or whatever you call it. We say in French, la gauche caviar. You can't be la gauche.
A champagne socialist.
Champagne socialist. There you go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Although gauche caviar is also pretty good.
Yeah, that is actually pretty good. But yeah, so these Regina ones, especially if I'm trying to remember the map in my head, Walsh Acres is on the outskirts of the city, right? It goes up against, I think, the northern boundaries of the city, right? So this is not exactly like a downtown. It includes a lot of suburban areas, right? So for the NDP to get these kinds of results in Regina, I think they're going to be pretty happy about that. And for the Sask Party, they can afford to lose a lot of Regina. They can afford to lose it all. They're usually stronger in Saskatoon, so they can, lose less there. But I do wonder what's going to happen, assuming these results kind of hold, how Scott Moe and the Sask Party is going to react to the fact that the Sask United Party got 23% of the vote. They do have Nadine Wilson does have a seat in the legislature, right? Yeah, suddenly it sounds like she's gaining a lot of credibility just from these results.
Where is her seat? She's in Saskatchewan Rivers, I think. Let me check. She is in Saskatchewan Rivers. And she 63% of the vote against 25 for the NDP in that riding. It's a tall order to flip that, but she's having a good night tonight. I mean, of course, they're not going to win it, but 23%, I think it's still holding. 9 boxes out of 23 is still holding.
But 23, you wonder if she's going to get in the debates, for example. Right, that'll be a big debate. Yeah. But you take 23. It looks, if you look at the results in Lumsden-Morse, it's almost an exact drop for the Sask Party that goes to the Sask United Party, right? So if you have the same 23% happen in Saskatchewan Rivers, and suddenly the Sask Party is down to 40%. And then that's not that. Then you only need another swing of 9 points. A leader bonus could get that, right?
Yeah.
So if these kinds of numbers hold, there is the possibility that she could win re-election. I would imagine she'd be the only one, assuming there's not some big swing towards the Sask United Party over the next year or so. But that does change the dynamic, because you see it with the federal Conservatives as well, right? When if you think that you need to get some votes to the right of you, if you let yourself get pulled that way, it can have some negative consequences, right? So if Scott Moe comes out tomorrow and spends any time talking about the Sask United Party after losing 2 seats to the NDP, that would be a pretty big sign that, maybe their focus is not in the right place.
I think absolutely. I'm trying to think what we learned from those numbers here. The PCs are definitely not at 10%. There's what do you call it? Cross-pollination in those polls.
Yeah.
The same way that the BC Conservatives always poll better than they actually get into an election. I think pollsters will have to make some adjustments here, because there is some confusion. There's no way the PCs are at 10%.
Yeah.
And the SUP, polling at 3%. I know these are local races, and this is the first, but again, 22% in this riding. I think the demographics of Lumsden-Morse could be similar to other rural ridings.
Yeah.
So the transposition here, it's not that hard to imagine the SUP replicating in general election.
There is one local kind of dynamic happening here. There was a story that came out about something happening at the school with a sex ed presentation that was given, and there was a big blowback from it, and the Sask United Party kind of grabbed onto it as an issue. So, there are those kinds of issues that can kind of blow up for a party, so they might not happen everywhere in the next campaign for the Sask United, but up to this point, all of the discussion I'd heard about this party was very dismissive, right? That it's not really a real thing. Don't need to worry about it. It's polling at 1 or 2%. But to get over 20% of the vote, think about, how did Maxime Bernier do in Portage-Lisgar, right? 18,
I think.
And he gets national kind of coverage and all this kind of stuff, and he didn't manage this. And this is a party that the media in Saskatchewan largely kind of ignores, right? And still managing to do this well. So, you don't want to take away from the Sask Party. They're still going to win with, right now they're at 51%. But when you should win with 70 plus, you can't afford to lose 20 points everywhere. The Sask Party can probably afford to lose 20 points everywhere, but that's not a good sign for them going forward.
Buffalo Party also doing poorly. Didn't they get 3% in a general election? I see 1%, but also what I see is 32 votes. Yeah. So Monsieur Guimelin has a big family.
Yeah. I'm guessing most of these people do not pronounce their name in French. We did get a comment that Sandra Morin does not pronounce it as Morin. But
she says Morin?
Yeah, I guess so. The thing with the Buffalo Party, though, they averaged 9% in the ridings where they ran a candidate last time.
Oh, right. Yeah, they didn't have a full state.
Yeah, but where they did, they actually finished second in a lot of those ridings. The NDP was so weak, right? So it does seem like, at the very least, a lot of that Buffalo Party vote has gone to the Sask United Party. So if the Sask United Party can replicate that everywhere next time, that they already have a little bit of a base that they can kind of work from. But yeah, you do wonder how long these... there's always been these Western separatist parties. They don't seem to ever go away, despite the fact that they get 1 or 2% of the vote every time, and they stick around, right? So,
protest votes in between elections, and they fall in line when come election time.
We're being asked if we've called Lumsden-Morse. Yeah, we'll call it, right?
10 out of 23. Are there a lot of vote by mail?
There's 168.
Yeah, okay, so
no,
51%. It's been pretty stable.
Yeah.
The NDP pulled in second place, so I think we can call it.
Yeah,
all
right.
So it's called. There you go. It's done, baby.
Blaine McLeod, the dairy farmer, is going to become the next MLA for Lumsden-Morse. You heard it here first, potentially elsewhere, but if you're only watching this, you heard it here first. He will win, but it's going to be a bit of a bittersweet victory. It's going to be hard to imagine the Sask Party putting out celebratory tweets and congratulations to the fact that they lose 2 seats and 20% of the vote in the one riding that they should have won easily. It's kind of, so here's a question for you, and it's a broader question. Is this a summer protest against the government doesn't really matter. The people who really care are out at the cottage, which I don't know who are all these people with cottages and chalets. I don't have one. But anyway, so yeah, you do wonder, maybe that's the line we're going to hear over the next couple of days.
In by-elections, it's always the most motivated to vote.
Yeah.
Who vote, right? So you really have to be an election nerd to really, in the summer and an August election. But I'm not sure if do we see the turnout somewhere on the page? I don't see it, but
yeah, on the one I have up, because it depends on how big you have the thing.
Okay. Lumsden-Morse, what's the turnout?
It's 23% right now, but I think it's a cumulative count.
Right. Okay. So
I think
it could go up
40 or so.
40ish. That's pretty good actually for a by.
Rural ridings usually. I find that the this is going to sound awful, and I don't mean it this way, but the less exciting things you have happening in your local area, the more likely your turnout's going to be higher in a by-election. No offense, if you live in a rural area. I grew up in a small town. I would have voted if I could when I grew up there. But you see that like in a lot of like in the Ottawa ones, Ontario ones, right? Canada Carleton had decent turnout.
Yeah,
it's a bit more of a rural riding. It's kind of a suburban mix. But then the one that was in Scarborough had just anemic, awful turnout. Like no one cared.
I think it was.
Yeah. So, and you see the same thing here too, right? Coronation Park has 29%. Walsh Acres has 38%. It's been interesting. There's that much of a difference in these two neighboring ridings. But yeah,
Well, hockey player. There you go.
Yeah, could be as easy as that. Maybe it's possible that the Sask Party kind of gave up on Coronation Park, so they didn't even bother putting in too much of an effort, because it is closer in Walsh Acres. And also when it's closer, that usually kind of has higher turnout. You know what I mean? People, if they can tell it's a competitive race, maybe people in Lumsden-Morse thought that this would be a bit competitive. And it for a rural riding that votes so overwhelmingly for a party, this is kind of competitive, I guess.
Well, the thing is, let's be honest, it's not competitive, but it gives us something to chew on because this is new, right?
Yeah.
That 22% for the SUP is new. And we know exactly where that vote is coming from. It's not a coalition of people. It's not like the CAQ in Quebec where it picks up from every party. This is right at the Sask Party vote that they're chewing on. The NDP has a pretty good score, but it's similar to what they had in the past, 24%. Now they had 19, 18. So
it's up a bit. So they never make huge, like they're not going to jump 20 points in rural areas, right?
No.
Someone did make a point, Bo, in the comments, which now that he says it makes sense. Walsh Acres is a wealthier area, so maybe it has a bit higher turnout, whereas Coronation Park is not as wealthy. So usually in those kinds of areas, people have better things to do than voting, right? So that could be what is the difference between these two. Oh, we also said that they don't think that is cumulative. So we'll see if Lumsden-Morse then is, if that is the, well, the turnout, right? So they're at 3,065 votes out of 13. We're doing math here on the, so it is 23%. So I think it is cumulative. I'll eventually pronounce that word correctly, but so I think it is going to keep going up. So we'll see, but maybe it's not. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure.
If you have questions for us, people, I mean, the counting seems to be slow right now in Lumsden-Morse, and the other two are over. So
yeah,
throw some questions at us. Eric and I will be happy to answer. I saw a question about Quebec. Anthony, are we getting a new Quebec poll in time soon? I don't think it's going to come before September. I don't see it unless there's something I'm missing. But right now, only Léger polls Quebec, and Léger has other things to do. Then poll 3 years from an election. So it probably in September.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Unless
something happens. We never know. We'll have a by-election in Quebec.
Yes. That one will be a fun one.
A good one, too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And these are good ones, too. We got two flips and something kind of new happening.
Absolutely. And you know what? I have to admit, for those who are watching, I've never been to Saskatchewan. I've been reading a lot about Saskatchewan history. I've been studying for tonight. Of course, when I built the model and I, drew the maps and everything, I learned a lot about Saskatchewan. I am fascinated. I would like very much to go there and to go drink craft beer and drive around and meet people there, because I think that's.
I think we just have a road trip next summer.
I think we have a road trip, absolutely. Because I did that a few years ago in Alberta. It blew me away. I loved Alberta so much when I went there. Oh, and delicious beer in Alberta.
I was actually looking to see if the LCBO had any Saskatchewan beer. I thought it would be fun to have one, but they didn't have anything. So
they must have good beer in Saskatchewan, right? The grains are right there. So
yeah, they just grind it up and add water right in the field. That's what they do.
People, if you have good Saskatchewan beers to recommend, do it in the comments, please.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
I've been to Saskatchewan twice. I've been to Saskatoon and Regina. Both I enjoyed very much. Saskatoon I thought was quite pretty, right with the river and everything. And Regina has a special place in my heart because it was the first time I was talking to Philippe about this before we started. It's the first time I did an election night TV show for CBC. I did that in 2016. And that was a lot of fun. I was there for like a week, and I had the day before the election. The way it works at CBC, Radio Canada, there's usually a schedule of when you do your rehearsals, and then the day before the election, they usually give it off. So I was able to tour. I did a tour of the legislature in Regina, so that was really cool. Anyway, I really enjoyed my time there. So I was going to make it for 2020, but because of the pandemic, I didn't travel, so I ended up doing the show from my office upstairs, which wasn't as fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have questions? I think we do, huh? Hang on.
What do we have? We got more polling for Manitoba. I have heard that there will be some coming out during the campaign. Probe Research will have some for the Winnipeg Free Press, but we'll probably have to wait until mid-September.
I was told by Main Street that they would poll in early September too, and probably at some more than once during the campaign. Léger has an office in Winnipeg. You think Léger would poll Manitoba, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I think we won't get tons of data, but I think we'll get some weekly stuff to chew on.
Well, it's setting up to be an interesting campaign. The last couple polls have showed it being more or less a tie between the NDP and the PCs. So that's going to be right now. I think you and I have similar projections. I have right now. I think I have 28 for the PCs, 26 for the NDP, and 3 for the Liberals. So a minority government with the Liberals holding the balance of power. That would be interesting.
That would be really interesting. I think thing is I haven't adjusted it in a while. The latest poll that we had in Manitoba from Main Street, there were some issues with it, so I didn't use it. But I think it's going to get right down to the wire, and I'm curious to see what the Liberals will do here, because they haven't been in power in a long time, and I don't think we know which way they would lean. Would they work with the PCs? I think they would. Would they work with the NDP? I think they would. But Monsieur Lamont, I'm not sure where he stands. So this could be a very interesting election if it's that close. So
it could be like with the Nick Clegg, wasn't that? He talked both to Labour and to the Conservatives back in 2010, and eventually decided to go with the Conservatives, if I remember correctly.
Shop around.
Yeah. Got a question about whether we think the SUP could have won any polls in Lumsden-Morse. I remember looking at the polling poll by poll, and the Sask Party won every single one of them. The Buffalo Party finished second in a few of them, and that's not too bad because they were so far behind the NDP. The fact that they finished second, so there might be a couple polls where maybe the SUP is going to win, but with these kinds of margins, I mean, there's not a huge amount of votes in some of the polls, so there might be enough that the SUP would finish ahead, especially but I don't believe that, I'm just remembering what I read before, that John Hromek, I don't think he lives in the riding. I think he's from Regina. So I don't think he would have like a hometown advantage. I know that Blaine McLeod was in what was the name of started with a C where he was from. I can't remember the name of the town in Lumsden-Morse. And
I'm sorry, can't help you there.
No, you can't. And Caitlin Stadnick is a young student who's studying at the University of Regina, but she is from the town of Lumsden. So maybe she will have done well in that riding. People will have known her and that kind of thing. So I always like seeing that, especially in ridings like that, where they're very disparate and which little areas vote for Caronport. Yeah, that's right. Or was it Caronport or Carsonport or Caronport? Okay. Yeah, I always like looking to see this. It's when you see, like I always look at the riding in Gaspé. I like seeing little towns because I know them all so well, and I can see the ones that vote for the Bloc or the PQ, and the ones that vote for the Liberals, and you can see like, oh yeah, those are the ones where the Anglophones live. This is the area. So anyway, it's always fun to see that. So at least this Lumsden-Morse one might not be all painted dark green.
Is the city you were looking for Caronport?
Yes. Yeah.
Bo. Thank you, Bo.
Yeah.
Bo seems to know Saskatchewan.
Bo knows
Thank you,
Saskatchewan. Bo. Just like the old Bo knows one. All right. So we're at 11 of 23. I don't think we'll wait till the end of this. I don't know if you want to go to the top of the hour, a little bit beyond that, but we'll see if...
I'll just answer. This is a Saskatchewan feed, so I don't want to talk too much about Quebec, but Mostaran asked, do I think that QS can win Jean Talon? We'll talk about that in time, but QS could be competitive, especially if the students in that riding vote for him. But, we'll have plenty of time to discuss this eventually. So,
yeah,
they're going to be competitive. That's my answer. So.
Who are they? The third most likely to win in your mind?
They finished second last time around. It's just that the PQ surge in Quebec City is, it's not a good news for them. Although it does take some votes away from the CAQ. I think it's going to be a three-way race, unpredictable, and it's down to who has the best machine. And even though the PQ has good numbers, they don't have a good machine in Quebec City. They haven't been competitive there in decades. So.
Yeah.
But let's go back to Saskatchewan. Sorry.
Yeah.
Always.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
So many Quebec questions. We'll answer them in time. I feel bad. I want to answer the questions, but this is a Saskatchewan. Although, have we said? I think I'm good. We could. I'll go to the top of the hour, as you said. The Reginas are over 2 pickups and 22% now for the United Party. I think that's the story for Lumsden-Morse.
Yeah.
And I will adjust. I will adjust the model to have the United Party doing well in most of rural Saskatchewan.
I'm actually curious. How are you going to? I'm curious. How do you incorporate the by-elections in your?
Well, that's the thing. We have to be careful with by-elections because could the Sask United Party just die in the next year? Probably not, but it could happen. I mean, the whip in Alberta was polling in double digits for a long time until they only had 2 or 3 candidates, I think, in the end, and not even 1%. Yeah. So we don't know which way this is going to go. But I have the tables of all the demographic data. I will compare Lumsden-Morse to other ridings in Saskatchewan, and I will see if there are similarities, and then I will use this swing. So the advantage that we have here is really looks like the Sask United Party really took a bite out of the Saskatchewan Party because the other parties, the results are not that surprising. Yeah.
The Sask Party is at 22%, and the Sask United Party is at 22%, and the Saskatchewan Party is down 22 points.
Exactly.
In Lumsden-Morse. Pretty simple there. So that's the story for that one. The Buffalo Party not doing much. So the threat, if there is a threat to the right, it is from the Sask United Party. The NDP getting a bump in a rural riding, not a bad result for them. And then you got Regina Coronation Park, proof that the PC's not really much of a 5%, 6%. So maybe not what we're seeing in the polls is all not real, but maybe half of it is not real. But it doesn't seem like that helped the Sask Party, right? So it's not like a vote that is going to go to the Sask Party anyway. So you got 2 big wins for the NDP in Regina, which I think is something that they really need because they need a sign that they have some hope, right? Because every election is just a slaughter for them, or they get beaten in the popular vote by 2-1. So some hope for them there. And really, what is the Sask Party going to do? Are they going to try to hold on to their urban seats? Are they going to try to hold on to their right-wing vote? I would suggest that for them, they probably need to worry about those urban seats and not losing vote share out in rural Saskatchewan. But
they won't do that. They won't do that.
Hey, you know what the other factor is? Money. And
that's right.
If the money falls, starts going somewhere else, Saskatchewan, there's no limits. Corporations donate. People can give how much they want. They raise tons of money in Saskatchewan for such a small province, because you can get $10,000, $20,000 from a corporation that, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll get a contract from the government. Who knows?
I thought that was over.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Saskatchewan,
wow.
I think, is... And the only other place I think is Newfoundland and Labrador. I think they don't have the same. But that's it.
Okay.
Saskatchewan is... So if you want to go try to buy a politician in Canada, go to Saskatchewan. That's your best shot. If you got money.
You heard it here.
Yeah. Not that you can buy them, but you can try. Because there at least you can give them as much money as you want. Anyway.
Wow.
So that's the big takeaway from tonight. So big wins for the NDP in Regina. Saskatchewan Party, what are they going to do next? Any closing thoughts for you, Philippe?
No, I think we said it all. I want to thank everybody who showed up. It's always good to speak with you guys and speak with you, Eric. I'm sure we'll speak to each other very soon again. I mean, there's plenty of stuff this fall that's coming up.
Yeah.
So
Get the Manitoba provincial election be the next thing.
We'll do some OLP stuff at some
yeah.
point as well,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, absolutely.
And you and I got something in the works, but
We have something in the works.
We'll relieve that.
It's-
Exclusive scoop. You can think about it. And
It's a secret.
it's a secret for now. All right.
Absolutely not.
So thanks very much, everybody, for watching. Check out Philippe's stuff at 338canada.com. He also has a Substack now. You can go to that. That is, I think, 338canada.ca.
.ca. So go in there and subscribe. It's free for now, so you can enter your email. Help us out. I have a great team: Curtis Frick, Alex McPhee, and Kyle Hutton. So far, have joined me. We have a small team to publish analysis of Canadian elections. So 338canada.ca. Go there.
And the writ.ca is mine. Go there, and there it's not all
Absolutely.
free, so there you can pay. So if you'd like to give money to people to support the work that they're doing, you can do that at the writ.ca, and you can also go to Philippe's site for now and click on some ads. So
And the writ is great, by the way. I'm not saying that because I like Eric. Go to the writ and subscribe. It's worth your money.
yeah. Thank you very much. I think it is worth the money. And when
Absolutely.
you eventually go for, it'll be worth it too. So that'll be great. So thanks much, everybody. Big night in Saskatchewan politics, and have a good night, everyone.